1997. I'm wearing my gold calculator watch, I've got my Nokia phone, and of course I'm driving a Porsche 993 911. This is definitely my happy place. You know, I'm very, very fortunate. I get to drive a whole range of Porsche 911s on my channel, but I definitely love the 993 the most at the moment. It is just everything that a Porsche should be to me. And this one is a particularly special one, but we'll get into that in a moment. First of all, a little bit of background on the 993s. As you know, I own one myself. I own my own beat up base Cabriolet, a 1995 model. And what a pleasure that car is to drive. You know, the 993 editions were the last of the air-cooled, and by all accounts the best. You know, they'd had 30-something years to work out all the problems, and they really did. These things, as a friend of mine said to me recently, are like wood-burning fires. They just keep going, parts are reasonably cheap for them. You know, you get 1 million miles on them and they still run. They're really great. The other thing, of course, is that they're the last of the really analog Porsches. You know, there's no nannies on these cars. And I know this sounds strange, but they're not really that fast, which is another benefit. You really have to beat on them to get any performance out of them. This particular car is a 97, as I said, and it is a Carrera S. And something that people forget with the modern age of 911s is that the S wasn't always a more powerful model. In fact, from the 996 and earlier, the S was just trim level change. The engine remained the same. So in the 993 and actually in the 996 and earlier, the S was actually a slower model than the base because it had the same engine but a wider body that slowed it down a little bit. But this being a 97 means it has a slightly upgraded engine. It has the Vesuvio Ram engine, which is like a new top end, which gives it another 10, 12 horsepower. And you can just feel that in the mid-range and the top end over my car, which is the 95 that doesn't have that. Of course, people that have the 95 say, oh, the one without the Vesuvio Ram's the better engine because it's simpler. But the people with the Vesuvio Ram, of course, like the sound and the more power. One way or the other, they're both great engines. The other thing about the 993, of course, it's all the old styling. I remember sitting in a 993 in the 90s, my boss's car, and thinking, boy, this car really looks dated for a brand new car. And it was back then. But now, of course, this dated look is the look everyone wants. This looks better than a 996 inside, if you ask me. So by the time the mid-90s rolled around and Porsche were producing this car, the 993, they really sorted out the transmissions, the engines. They were very reliable, but also the suspension. These cars handled so well. It has a all aluminium multi-link rear suspension, very complex suspension that really shone, and even today these are beautifully handling cars. So not only is this a 993, but this is a 993 Carrera S. And the Carrera S is a very rare model within the 993 range. It was only made in 1997 and they made less than 4,000 of them. So this is a very sought after model. And the Carrera S, as I said, has the same engine as the base, but it has the turbo wide body, which is very cool. And there's a few other minor cosmetic and option changes with the Carrera S, most notably the twin grille on the back. And this particular car is a subset of that car based on the colour and the trim. Voice over me will explain.
Boy, that guy's a bit shouty today. Anyway, this package is known as the Vesuvio package, which relates mostly to this sexy purple grey colour, code L40X. More of a purple in direct sunlight, more of a grey in the shade. It also includes the Carrera S logo and split spoiler on the rear in steel grey, as well as the door mirrors and handles and various other bits around the car in this contrasting steel grey. There are only just over 100 of these Vesuvios worldwide, I believe.
And this particular one has been imported from Europe, and you can tell because it's got the kilometres an hour and the trip computer is showing 21 degrees Celsius. That's right, Americans, Celsius, real temperature. You know, I've been living in the US for what, 14 years now, and I still have no idea what 80 degrees Fahrenheit means. Yeah, I'm just another one of those damn foreigners that moved to America and then never learned the language. There are a few other changes to this car as well from stock. It's actually got a 996 steering wheel on it. It's got the upgraded modern PCM, so CarPlay and so forth, which is pretty cool. But otherwise, you know, 993s all generally drive more or less the same. Like this car drives like my car, but because it's a coupe, it's a little stiffer, and because it's after 96, it's got that better engine, so it revs a little more freely in the mid-range and top end, and sounds a little better. There we go, 170 kilometers an hour. Whatever that is in miles an hour, surely it must be less than 55 miles an hour. I'm safe from a ticket. I just cannot express how much I love driving 993, 911s. I would totally take a 993 every day over a modern 911. I know, strange as that sounds. You know, it's just a more analog experience. But this car's got 134,000 kilometers, whatever that is in miles. So it's no garage queen. I like to see these cars driven, and as I said, they just keep going. 136,000 kilometers, and this car drives like new. It is really a lovely machine. And that's the whole thing about 993s. As I said at the beginning, they just keep running. The engines are so reliable, the transmissions are so reliable, the running gear is so reliable, the parts are quite cheap. It is just a pleasure to drive. So what if you want to buy a 993? Well, I think the days of cheap 993s have gone now. I saw a beat up one like my one with like 150,000 miles on it. Went for 60, 70,000 on Bring a Trailer just the other day. So these days 993s run anywhere between $50,000 to $1 million. And really the $50,000 ones are very, very hard to find and must be in very poor condition. So yeah, even my beat up car is now worth, you know, $50,000, $60,000, no trouble. So unfortunately the days of cheap 993s have gone. You know, they were a short-lived car. There was only a run of 4 years. I think they made 400,000 or so. And that number dwindles every year. So unlike the 996s and 997s, which the prices for used of those will come barreling back down again over the next couple of years, I think the 993s and the rest of the air-cooled Porsches will remain high, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on whether you own one or not. Yeah, they're just a very special car. And the 993, of course, the most mechanically sorted of the air-cooled Porsche 911s. Anyway, a big thanks to my friend Joe for allowing me to drive his beautiful Vesuvio 993. It is a pleasure and a thrill to drive this 993, as it is every 993, but this is a particularly special one. And I'm always a little bit blown away that my friends trust me with their cars. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. From Albert and I, we'll see you in the next one. Dick Porsche drivers.